last year, rather than continuing to uselessly mow our unused backyard, which is primarily a place where mosquitoes live, I yielded to this itching vision of turning that yard into a wildflower meadow. I was tired of spending 20 minutes of my life every single weekend spewing fumes and carbon into the atmosphere while sweating and thinking, why am I doing this? And so I let the back grow. I also prepared and seeded several strategic patches with a mix of indigenous wildflowers. I had this vision. It was to be glorious, tall, waving grass, intermingled with generous speckles of red, blue, and gold, through which Bambi and Thumper and all their woodland friends could go hopping and skipping in technicolor splendor. But last year, I planted late in the season, and last year we had a drought that was a 100-year drought, and my backyard was sort of brown. Everything withered and died, and I got maybe 3 flowers total. And 2 of those were clovers, which would have come up anyway. But I didn't let go of the vision. This year, I said, this year, my backyard will be a riot of color. And I'm going to make it happen. I wasn't going to let go of that. I wanted that little idyllic slice of Eden. Flowers in springtime. And so, I started out again. I did more research. I bought the right kind of shade-tolerant wildflowers. I spent the better part of 2 saplings digging up bigger patches of my backyard. I seeded early at the right point in the season. I made sure everything got enough water. I monitored the patches, and sure enough, after that doting checking on the progress, it began. And it was a promising beginning. Seedlings started sprouting up everywhere. It was a glorious splash of delicate green growth. I could see that vision of perfection rising on 5,000 little shoots. But they didn't do anything. But they didn't grow. But they didn't change. And weeks passed. Still just feeble little shoots. More weeks passed. Lots of water, lots of attention. And the grass grew just great, soaring up past the stalled seedlings. Eventually, instead of the 3 blossoms I'd gotten the year before, I got 4 lonely little flowers. And then they faded away to nothing. The patches I had cultivated and sweated over and labored over and seen in my mind's eye as lavishly painted with columbine and cornflower and sweetwood and snapdragons and poppies were mostly just tall, browning grass. There wasn't enough sunlight. It seems it was not to be. So back in mid-June, I decided I was just going to take the mower to it. And I fired it up on Saturday morning, and I plowed into the flowerless meadow. And the tall grass fell before me, and all those flowerless seedlings were churned up into mulch beneath the whirling blades, and it was very satisfying. cathartic. I gave up on the idea that there would ever be wildflowers in my yard at all. And I've been mowing my front yard the whole time. And earlier this month, I got up early one morning to mow the front yard, which is a big, flat, dull path. Gets a ton of sun. And what I noticed in the front yard that morning was that it was full of flowers. Completely full of little golden flowers and little tiny white and pink clovers. Just everywhere. I had put in all that work, all that labor, digging, turning, seeding, and watering, and it had yielded nothing. But here, where not only had I not worked on it at all, but I'd been mowing it down every week, there were flowers by the thousands. And that was hard to understand. Evidence of my gifts as a farmer, I think. This kind of thing is almost as hard to understand as the parable. So, that we hear from the lips of Christ this morning. This is a story of a man who goes out planting. And frankly, he seems not to be paying a tremendous amount of attention to what goes on with his seed. He sows it on the path, where it's right out there, where birds can eat it. He sows it on rocky ground, where you know it's never going to stick. He sows it in weeds. It's not going to grow there. And at random almost, he sows some in good soil, and yeah, there, it's going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow, and you're going to get that harvest, because that's just what it does. This is a message, a story Jesus tells while bobbing in a boat, as a great crowd gathers to listen. And we don't know what the response of the crowd was, but we do know how the disciples respond. There's that section conveniently edited out of the reading that the church gives us today. What the disciples do after this story and others have been told is that they come up to Jesus. And I don't know if they go out to the boat or they pull him in, or if he rows in. And they say, hey, Jesus, we appreciate what you're doing here, but why are you telling stories? Because, honestly, they're not getting it. And I'm not sure if we're getting it. We don't entirely understand what it is you're telling us. Can't you make it a little easy? But there is a reason Jesus teaches this way. The reason Jesus does not give people 5 easy and practical lessons for their lives now. There's a reason Jesus teaches almost always using strange and obscure stories. Because Jesus understands the purpose of his teaching as giving a gift from God. And he also understands that getting it, understanding what he's saying, grasping it, being moved by it, is also a gift from gift.